Alright guys, Josh Karagian here with Mr. Rudolfo Navarro. Today we're just going to be quickly going over the TW721 Weekly Check sheet and the QR code to scan it. Rudy, if you want to head into the tower, go ahead and scan that QR code for me. So you can see there, Rudy scanned it with his camera and it pulled him up right here to the TW721 Weekly Check. So now here, if you look inside the officer seat right here on the dash, that QR code can be found right there. Easy to scan, so just take your camera out and scan it, hit the little link, and that'll take you to the weekly check form. Got in and scanned the actual QR code found in the tower. You're going to be brought to this screen. Once you get here, as you can see up here, the email is going to be required. We just want you to enter your district email. This just helps us know who's actually doing the check, and that way we can record that stuff when we're looking at responses for this. So that's gonna be the first thing right here, is entering your email. So we'll go ahead and do mine. Okay, the next one's gonna be the engine mileage, so the actual mileage on the engine of the tower truck. So right here, we'll just make something up for now. We'll do 112. Okay, next thing we're going to get into is the engine check. Okay, so all of this needs to be taken care of. Obviously, we want the fuel level at 3 quarters or better. So we can check that off once that's been checked and insured. If it needs filled up, pull the tower around, fill up the engine, or fill up the tower. If you can't drive that truck, find somebody that can at the station so we can get that taken care of. Check the engine oil. Okay, the basic stuff here, like we check on any engine of any apparatus. I want to make sure we do that on all of these different fluids, whether it's the engine oil, the transmission fluid, power steering fluid, coolant level, wipers. We want to make sure we fill all those if needed. Once you've done so and checked the levels, you can go ahead and check those off over here on these boxes. After that, you're going to go around and start checking tires. So tire side, front tire air pressure. Want to make sure that we get all of these. We just checked the truck the other day, so all of our air pressures were looking really good. But again, we want to make sure we do this every single week. So then we've got the driver's side front rear dual and the driver's side back rear dual. Okay, we want to make sure we check all that. Then we're going to do the exact same thing on the passenger side, check all of our air pressures. Again, if this is something that you notice the tires are low, make sure you fill them up. Make sure we top those off with air to make sure that thing's running at the top that it can. Next thing we're going to get into is our apparatus walk around check. Just like any other truck check that we'd be doing, we want to make sure that we get all the way around the truck, check everything out, check every piece of equipment on it. So when we do that 360 walk around, we're going to check all of our lights. Okay, so emergency lights, blinkers, reverse, headlights, you name it. Those are going to be these first two. We're checking all the lights on this apparatus. So we can check both those off once it's done. Okay, next thing we want to do is check all of the SCBAs, just like we do on the engine. Start the SCBA up, check the battery level on it. If the battery's low, replace it. Batteries at station 72 are found in the air compressor room. If you don't know where that's at, find one of the residents or maybe one of the staff over here or anybody else that would know and ask them to show you where the batteries are at for those SCBA packs. Want to make sure we get those changed. Once we do that, we want to operate the alarm manually. Make sure that the pack will go off manually by pressing the pass alarm. We also want to do this by letting it go into its alarm cycles, when it's just sitting still. The obvious other piece of this is making sure that the bottle pressure is somewhere between 4,000 and 4,500 psi. Just like any other pack in service on any of our apparatus, that's where it needs to be at, in that little green zone. So we're going to check all of those. Once we get all the packs checked, we can check these off. And then you're going to check the side compartments where we keep extra SCBA bottles on that truck. And we're going to do the same thing, make sure that they're at 4,000 psi or greater. There's 4 extra bottles on that truck. So we can check those off once that's complete. Then checking all the different compartments. The tower, sometimes things change a little bit, necessarily where, things are at. But I mean, usually it's a pretty standard operation of what's where on there. So if you're not familiar with the tower, please get familiar. So we should be checking every single compartment, checking out all the equipment on it, making sure it runs. Same thing with the tower's set of hydraulic tools. Make sure the spreaders run, make sure that the cutters are doing good, the ram, and so on from there. Check all the tools on the truck. And if you don't know, that truck very well, again, please get familiar with it during this apparatus check's a really good time to do so. So after you check all the compartments, you can go ahead and check that one off. Primer oil. So the primer oil is located on the opposite side of the pump. So if you know where the pump's at on the tower, if you go to the exact same spot but on the passenger side, you'll find that primer oil. So you're going to check that out. Make sure the level on that's full. If it needs anything in it, go ahead and top it off. So fill if needed, just like the other fluids. We want to make sure that we get the truck shifted into pump. Bring that pump up to 150 psi and run some water through it. Just make sure, a little general easy check on the pump, make sure things are operational. If you're not a driver operator or don't know how to do this, do your check with somebody that does, or grab somebody just to help you out with that portion of it. Reality, this tower check should be, a full crew thing. Whoever's over at 72 during that Thursday should be doing this check together. So again, we want to make sure the truck gets shifted into pump, brought up to 150 psi, and circulate some water through. When we get to the ladder operations, we also have emergency procedure and drive. First thing that we want to do there is initiate ladder power and the ladder PTO and high idle. So we want to make sure all of those things are working properly. When we initiate that ladder power and the PTO there, making sure that the actual ladder's got power and that it's able to work. We want to chalk the wheels. Again, this is a portion of this check that should probably be done outside, because all of these pieces are going to start getting into the operations of the tower. There is things that will restrict these. If it's really bad weather, we understand that. It's not the end of the world if this portion of the check doesn't get done that day. But if it's nice out, low winds, sun shining, there's no reason we shouldn't get out on the tower for a little bit. Refamiliarize ourselves and get all of this, checked, make sure it's up to working order. So again, we're going to initiate ladder power, ladder PTO, and high idle, chalk the wheels. Then we're going to do the outriggers. So we're going to deploy those out all the way, pin them, and set it for a raise. If you look at the back of the tower, you'll have your 4 green lights for a given side, whether it be the driver's side or the officer's side, that are going to tell you, if those outriggers are out and in position all the way prior to raising or lowering the ladder. Then we want to deploy the ladder. So, from the operator's panel, we want to make sure that we can deploy it. So it needs to be raised, lowered, extended, retracted, and rotated all the way around. So get out to a nice open space where you can do this at. If you can't make it around 360 degrees, just go as far as you can. Obviously be careful and pay attention to any overhead obstructions or anything outside. Want to make sure that, our ladder's, operating correctly and as we'd expect it to. Ladder control platform and bucket radios operated. Okay, so as we're here, those radios, so the radio, if you climb up to the platform and you're sitting in the bucket, if you climb up to the bucket and you're in there, that radio will work. If you're talking, that radio is transmitting, versus if you're on the actual platform controlling the ladder from there, you have to hit a button to transmit up to the bucket where that system works. That being said, just make sure those are working, check the volume, all that stuff. Another part of this check. We have the platform bucket level it if necessary. There's an instruction sheet attached. I'll show you that in just a second. Same thing with the emergency procedure. So we want to make sure every single Thursday, if we get the chance to get this outside and do all these operations, we want to make sure that we go through the emergency procedures and what that looks like. So in the event that we do have some sort of a failure, the emergency procedures are working and we have a backup plan in place. So we're going to do that platform bucket level in the emergency procedures. We're going to check both those off. Now, right here again, it says instruction sheet attached and procedure sheet attached. If you scroll down to the bottom of this check sheet, you're going to find that. So you have bucket leveling procedure, Tower 2-1 bucket leveling procedure. And this will walk you through step by step how to level the bucket and get everything back to normal and as it should be. Got a couple cautions in here, so read through this full thing. Again, if you need help, grab somebody, please. By all means, we want to answer any questions anybody's got on this. The next sheet is the emergency procedures. So you can see that here. and Tower 2 emergency procedures. Again, this is going to walk you through step by step of how to go through the different emergency procedures, given different types of failure, whether it be hydraulic or electrical, how to work through those problems. And again, we want to make it so we test those systems. So we're going to, do a manual failure essentially, and set these up. And so, yeah, that's what we're looking for here. So both of those sheets are attached at the bottom of this. So please take a look at those when you're doing this portion of the check. The last thing on this part here for the operations is the truck taken for a short drive. I think it's important that we take this truck out. It needs to be driven each week. This just ensures that things are running, appropriately, and that it's, getting the cobwebs blown out of it, right? So we want to make sure that we take that for a short drive. If that's just a few miles, awesome. If you're working on the tower and want to get a little bit longer drive, by all means, we support that. We want you to get that taken care of. But at the least, we should be going a 5-6 mile loop just to get this truck all the way around and brought back to the station. Just blow some of the cobwebs out of it, get it up to speed, braking, all those pieces, and make sure we're operating well there. So after you get the truck taken for a short drive, you can go ahead and check that off. Next portion of this is after the drive. So when we get back from the drive, we want to make sure our fuel level is 3/4 or more. That tower burns through fuel, so if you need to fill it up, please do so. Pay attention to the fuel level. Plan on filling it up when you get back from your drive. Next thing is make sure the truck's washed. Like all of our apparatus, we want to make sure that they look good, they're clean, they're respectable. So when that tower gets back from the drive, we should give it a quick wash and check that off. Next thing from there is making sure that the truck is plugged into shoreline power and hooked up to air. So both of those will be sitting on the side of the truck just where you unplugged them from. We want to make sure that those are hooked up. That way the truck's got power and has air to the system. Last couple things here that we want to make sure we do is check the officer radio battery. So that's only got one portable in it, but we want to make sure that that's charging and the battery's full. If it's not, please let somebody know. That way we can get that taken care of if that's ever not charging. And then the last one on that is going to be the iPad plugged in. So just like all of the other apparatus, it's really important that our iPads are charged. The screen can be locked. That way it's not just running and draining battery of any sort. But make sure that iPad's plugged in, Crew Force is up and running, and then you can lock the screen. And then we need to do the engine mileage after the drive. So I think it's important, again, after we get back from that drive, what the updated mileage is. And that'll be the last piece of that. So you can type that here. So let's see, we started at 112, I wish. Okay, so we say we got 112 before our drive. We went for a 5-mile loop. So we're at 117 when we get back from that. And that'll be the updated piece there. Again, bucket leveling procedure and emergency procedures are attached. And then when you get done with this full check, just run through back everything. Make sure everything looks good, everything's filled out. No mistakes or anything like that, and then you can hit this submit button. All right, well, thank you guys for watching. If you have any questions or need any help at all, please see me or any of the other staff members. Thanks again.